Hey guys!
Welcome back.
Today we have special guests. We have outgoing and incoming Student Association Presidents Garrett Smith and Kennedy Guest. I keep wanting to combine y'all's names for some reason.
Okay.
So, welcome guys. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourselves, whoever can go first.
Hi, my name is Kennedy Guest. I'm the incoming student body president. I'm a junior here at Mississippi State, majoring in accounting from Brandon, Mississippi.
And I'm Garrett Smith. I'm a senior political science major here from Starkville, Mississippi, and I'm the outgoing student body president.
Awesome. So when does your term officially start?
So it's right after the Student Association banquet, which is April 3rd.
Okay, nice. And what is y'all's favorite thing about MSU?
My favorite thing about MSU has just kind of been like the progressive experience of relationships. Like I came here, I lived on a dorm hall with like 10 of my best friends from high school, kind of just hung out with them for the first year I was here. And then the next year I got really involved in my fraternity and made a bunch of friends there. So my circle kind of went from 10 to like 200. And now, have got super involved in the student association and feel like I just have gotten super close with everybody in SA and just around campus. So just kind of that progression of building more and more relationships at State and the attitude of never stop growing is my favorite thing about MSU.
Yeah, I'd say just family and opportunity. I mean, it's definitely, people talk about the family environment here, and they're not kidding. It's a little different for me. I haven't been from Starkville, and just kind of like knowing a little bit about that, but not really experiencing it until I got here. And I think really honestly being able to experience it on a deeper level just because of the connections that come from being from Starkville, right? Professors and administrators that I already, knew, having a different relationship with President Keenum because I mentored his son for a while, and then just all the crazy opportunities that I've had at Mississippi State, whether it's writing for the Reflector and getting to go sit in press boxes across the SEC or doing student government stuff, as well as just a lot of random, I tried out for the football team on a dare. I did, there's too much stuff to list in one podcast, honestly. It's just been an incredible 4 years. Definitely ready for something else, but plenty of opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's going on right now as you two are kind of switching positions, like behind the scenes?
So,
you go ahead.
Probably the biggest thing that we're kind of collaborating on is a fix to university advising. So why don't you touch on advising surveys, and I'll kind of say how I'll pick it up after you.
Yeah, absolutely. So the great thing about knowing Kennedy and having worked with him a lot is we're able to kind of transition really smoothly, and projects in higher education take a long time, certainly longer than a 1-year term in student government, and that can create problems sometimes. But this year I think things will be a lot smoother. So one thing that has been consistently a concern, probably for more than my 4 years here, probably before that, but is university advising. And so that's one of the number one complaints that we get in our office, and we do what we can with that. Recently the university has expressed immense interest in fundamentally changing that process, in pouring their time and effort and energy and money into fixing this. So one way that we are planning to do that this semester, I guess it'll technically be slightly after my term is over, but it's something that we've worked to implement throughout this semester, is advising surveys. So when you take a class, you do a survey on your professor and give them feedback about what you did and did not like about their class, and that allows them to be a better teacher. It also gives the university data that they can use to make all classes better. We want to take that to advising, and so this semester when you do after you do your advising, you're going to get sent a class climate link with a chance to rate your advisor and give them individual feedback that hopefully will make them better at what they do, as well as provide the university a ton of data that they can then analyze and figure out, hey, so here are the specific problems that we have with advising across the university or even in a specific department, and pour their efforts into fixing that, whatever that kind of specific problem may be.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea to have the form, just like how we survey our teachers, so you can know, because I know a lot of professors don't even necessarily want to be advisors, but they're just kind of forced to anyway. And so I think it'll be a good way to like kind of sift out and see who's meant to be an advisor and maybe who, I don't know. I don't know if y'all are looking into maybe not making all the professors advisors or a system like that.
Well, that's kind of where this new advising center is going to go, potentially.
Yeah. So the university has agreed to kind of pour some money, like Garrett said, into fixing the problem, and they've already hired a new staff member who is going to be over advising. And basically, we're waiting to get the results of this advising survey back, and are going to kind of proceed from there into the creation of an advising center. Not sure what that will look like, because it will depend a lot on what the survey says, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I'll have the opportunity to kind of pick that up and be on the ground floor of that with whatever resources the university has, so we can take that student input, which we'll have because of what Garrett did, along with our current director of policy, Campbell Taylor. So the ability to collaborate on projects like that, I mean, this is something that's so long-term that, you know, by the time any credit is given, we'll both be long gone, which is fine. But the ability to collaborate on that absolutely makes us more effective.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. So why did each of you aspire to be student association president, and how do you know that you are capable of having such a big job?
I'll start with this one, Jim.
Yeah, go ahead.
So when I first came to Mississippi State, had no desire to be student body president simply because I didn't think I could do it. I was like, you know, there are people more qualified than me, people smarter than me, you know, people that are better politicians than me. And it was about 2 years ago. I was one of the chairmen of the Senate under Garrett when he was vice president. And one of my friends, a guy named Will Ball, just walked up and said, "Hey, Kennedy, you should run for vice president." I was like, I'm not qualified for that. I don't know enough. I hadn't done enough. And he was like, "I think you should do it. I think you'd be good." So we sat down, we talked about it, and I decided to run. And really, at that time, was so focused on vice president, was not even thinking about running for president. After that, just kind of wanted to take that first step. I think it was through being vice president that I kind of realized, hey, I enjoy this. Hey, there's a lot of cool stuff going on. The vice president is kind of the nexus for every idea that comes through Senate. And a lot of those ideas get accomplished through the SA president. They very much kind of control the direction of the organization and work closely with administrators. So being able to sort of serve as VP and act as that nexus of ideas then kind of gave me the drive and the desire to be able to be the one that can accomplish those goals. So definitely would not have had the drive to run for president had it not been for serving as vice president.
Yeah, absolutely. I really would say aspire is kind of a strong word. I had no aspirations of being student body president when I got here. I really was encouraged to get involved in the student association coincidentally by a former student body president, Mr. Jojo Dodd, who was actually took kind of a gap year in between his time here and medical school, and was my high school soccer coach as a senior. And so had plenty of time to chat with him about Mississippi State before I got here. And he just, said the student association was something to get involved in. Ran for freshman senate and just enjoyed it, was elected, fortunate enough to be elected to that. Enjoyed my time on there and enjoyed, both the things that we were doing and also just the atmosphere. Taco Tuesday is a long held Senate tradition, and just getting to hang out with other people that wanted to make an impact on campus, and it was fun. So I stuck with it for another year, and then really kind of in the same boat as Kennedy, had to be talked into it a little bit to run for vice president. I had to be encouraged and was by a lot of people. People who were on the executive council that year, people who were on our Senate. Will Ball was also one of the people that encouraged me to run for vice president, coincidentally. It kind of got talked into it, said, okay, I can do this, let's do this. Once again, fortunate enough to win that election. But I needed no talking into running for president. Really within the first month or two, or maybe three of being vice president is when I decided, I wanted to be student body president. And that's honestly, in large part because of COVID in a lot of ways. Because really, I was elected as vice president on a Thursday. I left for spring break on a Friday, and I never came back from spring break. That's when COVID happened, and so it started to impact the United States, and platform points out the window, plans out the window, everything that we thought we knew out the window. I was suddenly a member of the Mississippi State COVID Task Force, which was making all the decisions. I was sitting in a room with Dr. Hyatt and others over the summer break, not sure if we were coming back to school in the fall, like genuinely didn't understand what was about to happen, right, at all. But I'm seeing the genuine leadership of our university, right, and I mean good leadership, genuinely. Then I was like, this is important. This is bigger than student government. This is really about the student body, and it's something that I wanted to be a part of. I think a lot of times, unfortunately, the student association can get wrapped up in these kind of pet projects that are cool and nice, but they don't really help anyone. And I had seen a lot of that in my first 2 years, but in this moment, I was seeing, just raw leadership, right? Like this was impacting students in colossal ways, and they needed to have a voice. And so that was the moment I was like, I want to keep doing this, and I did. I finished out that year as vice president, ran for president, and have enjoyed every second of it.
Awesome. So what is the difference between just being a senator and then working your way up as vice president or president? Like, how do your responsibilities change?
So definitely between senator and vice president. Vice president is more of like a management role. So the vice president absolutely can be, kind of on the ground working on projects, but they don't get a vote unless it's a tiebreaker. They can't introduce legislation. Senators are more the hands and feet of the kind of the policy side of student association, like how cabinet is with programming. And the vice president is just kind of the oversight kind of management position. The vice president books rooms for Senate meetings. They coordinate with the secretary to create the agenda. What I have told a lot of senators, and I think this is pretty true, the number one job of the vice president is knowing who to email. When a senator has an idea, the vice president should be able to say, "Hey, all right, you should email
the
facilities management."
The university organization chart is your friend.
Yes, it is. If you can memorize that, you're going to be a great vice president. But definitely, since I've been here, every vice president has kind of expanded on that role, has taken more of a hands-on interest in policy, as well as in executive things within the SA. We recently rewrote our Constitution, which was something that everybody had a part in because that affects everybody. But overall, just knowing who to email is what separates the vice president from the senators.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, one huge difference, honestly, you get paid, and you get paid for a reason because it is a job. It's different, being on Senate. It's very equivalent to being a part of lots of different student organizations. Being on cabinet is kind of the same way. It's a couple hours a week. You get in what you put out, right? Or you
get out what you put in.
You get out what you put in. Yes, that's what I meant. If you want to put in a ton of effort and make some enormous change on campus, you're absolutely capable of doing that. And we have plenty of senators who do. But at the end of the day, there's kind of minimal requirements, right? Like if we definitely have had people who just kind of are there and object to stuff, but, don't really have as many ideas of their own. But once you step into that exec position, there's a lot of requirements, and it's a huge time commitment. I don't know how many hours a week I work because I do the same, because I also do my homework in my office, so I don't really know, just because I'm in there, 45 hours a week doesn't mean that I'm working that much, but I am working a lot, and president is even kind of another step above VP or some of those other exec positions. But it's a job, and it's a fun job. Don't get me wrong. But you're constantly in meetings. You're constantly sending emails and calling people and things like that. And it's kind of this back and forth between managing this 200 person organization essentially, and then working with. And then kind of also being an executive for the university as a whole, and that's more of a lobbying role really. Is just constantly going to all these different meetings, and Kennedy serves on a number of committees, university committees as well. But they ask us for student input because they are curious and they do care, and our university cares a lot more than most, I can promise you. But they ask for student input, we provide it. So it's a huge time commitment. It's a lot of back and forth between kind of this student side of things and then the administrative side of things. But it's a lot of fun for sure.
Has y'all's view of the university changed since becoming vice president and president?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so, all right, definitely, pre-enrolling at state, my thought was, state is just a great, sports program, basically. And I get to go up there on Saturdays and watch. I didn't live in Starkville.
Okay.
I was only here for football games.
Yeah.
And then coming here, obviously it became more of a school. And the only thing I really knew was, again, the football games on Saturdays and then just classes and grades. But being able to see the inner workings of the university and, the countless programs in which we engage that most students never see. The amount of services that are available that maybe are only taken advantage of by 4 or 5 students, but that are vital to those 4 or 5 students is insane. And there are people here like Dr. Regina Hyatt who devote their lives to helping students. Mm-hmm. And being able to see that absolutely makes the job worth it. Being able to kind of understand something that Garrett and I have talked about before is that the student body president should be the biggest Mississippi State fan. And that doesn't mean the biggest Mississippi State football fan. That means the biggest fan of the university and the institution and the organization. And I think that's true because I think it's impossible to be in a position like this and not appreciate what goes on around us every day, specifically for students.
Absolutely. I think, being student body president absolutely made me a bigger Mississippi State fan. And that's because I've realized how different Mississippi State is than a lot of other schools. There's some hesitation to that, right? Being from Starkville, it's just Mississippi State, right? It's just one of 8, public institutions in the state. It's one of 14 SEC schools. It's just like all the others, right? It's just, the one that's close by. That's not true at all. Having the opportunity to work with student governments across the SEC, across the state, I realize how different our administration is. And in a incredibly positive way, and incredibly thankful for the direction that this university is taking, for the leadership that it already has. We should all be much more proud of Mississippi State than we are, than we know to be. It's a great place to be. It's headed in a great direction. The way that the university values its students is not reciprocated across the state or the Southeast. It really isn't. And so that makes me proud. I'll tell you what, it's just different. And you can't realize that until you get to know these people that are in similar roles across the country. But I'll also say that it's just such an interesting window into higher education as a whole. Mm-hmm. So many student government kids end up going into higher education. This is the kind of role that qualifies you to be assistant dean of students or a probably starting off a little lower than that. Yeah. But to work in a dean of students office, to take care of, to direct fraternity and sorority life, to lead student organizations, this is the kind of thing that a lot of people do. Those people do in undergrad, and then they take on those kind of roles. And it's not exactly what I'm looking to do, but it's something that I in a lot of ways feel qualified for, and have gained a new respect for, certainly.
Going off of your point about other SEC schools being different and things like that, so do you feel that you've been able to accomplish more than other schools as your time as vice president and president, and for you just vice president, than maybe other people at other schools are able to?
Absolutely. The reality is that, as important as or unimportant as some people think that the Student Association is, we are only as important as the university allows us to be. We have, there are limits to our authority, and our limit, is wherever Mark Keenum decides for it to be. And he's decided for it to be, in a really great place. We are, when it comes to policy, when it comes to making change across campus, we're lobbyists. We beg and fight and, scream sometimes and just, ask for, change for our students. And, sometimes we get told, sometimes we get told no, sometimes we get told yes. And I think there's a lot more yeses happening here than at a lot of other universities. That part of that may be because we're asking better questions, but part of it's definitely because the university is more willing to work with us. And so I'm very thankful for that. But yeah, it's what I frequently tell people who are considering, working within student government or who want to, work their way up, is what we do is we knock on doors, and a lot of times the door is just closed. Sometimes that same door will open up a year later because we've had position change, an employee has rolled out and somebody else has rolled in. Sometimes it's because the laws have changed that govern that particular thing. Sometimes it's because now there's money to pour into it. But you just got to keep knocking, and we do a lot of knocking here, and we get, we find our way into some open doors. I think a few more than some other schools.
I would agree. Having been to the SEC Exchange, which is where all the student governments in the conference get together and kind of meet and fellowship, what separates us from a lot of other schools in the state and the conference is understanding how to get told no. A great example of that, one of the things I ran on for VP that just kind of was what happened at the perfect time was push to enter buttons on campus. We don't have a lot of push to enter buttons on campus. I ran on that. We had a senator pass a resolution about it. Our incoming director of policy, Campbell Taylor, who we've talked about before, was big on it. And we put some stuff together, sent an email, and they just said, hey, no, not happening. It's a safety concern. And we could have fought and cried and screamed and lost all credibility with the university right then, but we didn't. We said, okay, let's do something else that will help students. Because there's countless things we can work on. And if we get told no at one corner, we'll just start walking somewhere else. I think a lot of schools think that student government is like the federal government, where when you get told no, you can leverage your political power and try to make it happen. No, it's.
I wonder who thinks that. I mean.
There are some schools. You'd be surprised.
And there are some people who when I tell them, well, hey, I got told no by so and so. They say, well, why don't you just overrule them? There is no one here, that I can overrule. That's not how it works at all.
Yes, so definitely understanding the limits of our authority, and something that a former SA president, Jake Manning, used to say is that, the job of the SA president is to build up political capital. Mm-hmm. And you don't want to waste all the reputation that we've built up getting mad about getting told no. Because truly, we're in a great position, thanks in large part to Dr. Keenum, to influence change on campus. We just have to know what the limits of our influence are.
And thanks in large part to the student body presidents that came before us. Because when Kennedy talks about political capital, that's absolutely true. And it's true that if you lose that in 1 year, that can carry over. If you have one student body president who does a really bad job, who, maybe is just a little different and doesn't, takes getting told no a little too personally, well, guess what? The next person that rolls in, they're going to get ignored too. And so it really is, it's about setting it up for the future as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So who is a leader that you guys look up to?
I'll go first. I would definitely say my dad. Being able to, he was district attorney of Rankin and Madison County for 10 years, and now serves as a member of the U.S. House of Representatives. And being able to watch him just manage his office, both as district attorney and now as a member of Congress, has been incredible. The thing I most respect about my dad is he has never gotten angry in his whole life that I've seen. He always remains calm no matter what's happening. He always kind of knows exactly what to say and how to proceed with the situation. And he very much separates kind of the stressful things that go on at his work, which, he's under a lot of stress right now.
Oh, yeah.
With what's happening at home. He'll step out of committee hearings to call me and ask how my test went. And just the ability to see to people and to realize that people are more than their jobs is something that he does really well. And it's something that I hope to be able to do both as student body president and just as a, individual in the workplace.
Yeah. I too respect the congressman. Congressman Guest, if you're listening. Immense respect for you. Immense respect for my father too, if he's also listening. But I'm going to go a slightly different route and say President Keenum, honestly. And I know it may seem cliche, and I know there's plenty of people who know nothing about him who love him to death across our campus.
The fan page.
But the fan page, exactly. But I do know a little bit about him. I've gotten to meet with him plenty of times and work with him on plenty of different things, and I have immense respect for him. Took his leadership class last year. And I think the thing that has consistently said that sticks with me the most is he does this. He'll give this little talk on his 10 leadership lessons, and number 10, at least I'm pretty sure it's number 10, is the thing that separates leaders from followers. He says leaders make decisions. At the end of the day, He says, I, sit here atop, this university, and people come to me and they present a situation or an idea, and I say yes or no, and that's it. And it stops with him, all right? And it, at different organizations, it stops with different people, but that's the difference. Is he gets to say yes or no, I get to say yes or no on stuff that goes on within the student association. But that's it. It's about taking responsibility for that, right? It's not just willy-nilly saying yes or no on a whim, but taking all the information that you can get and committing to a decision, sticking with it, owning it, good or for bad, because you're gonna make mistakes. But that is what leaders do.
Yeah, and going off of that, how does y'all's leadership style differ from each other? If you know,
they're kind of
or how is it similar?
I would say I very much like. And I'm not saying this to be mean. Hear me.
No.
Here's my thought.
I hear you.
I take a lot more input than Garrett does from other people.
True.
And I say that as someone who wishes I was more like Garrett, in that I a lot of times get nervous to make a decision without knowing everything. And Garrett is always immensely confident in his decision. And I got a lot of respect for you for that. So.
I like that.
Yeah, no, I would say that's pretty accurate. Sometimes Kennedy will come to me and he'll tell me about somebody's opinion that he kind of wants to ignore, but he just can't. And it's less of a problem for me to sometimes ignore that. If I think it's unhelpful. So
yeah.
I like that. So, switching into some things that you've been able to accomplish as president, what are some of your favorite things that you've been able to accomplish as President Garrett?
Yeah, I mean, it's a number of things. I think, I'm just excited to have really kind of brought us back from this year of COVID, and that is, it shut us down in so many ways, not just from the programming side, but from, a policy side too, because administrators were busy dealing with things that were not the things that we were worried about, and so that's kind of what I'm most proud of, and that includes a lot of different things. It includes being able to do Cowbell Yell, and even though I'm not the one who plans that, I'm the one who says, hey, it's happening, and works to make sure that our people are on it. So like that, I'm just immensely proud of bringing back events, bringing back things to campus. I'm proud of tackling really big policy projects. This student activity fee thing is no small thing. It is it's still just a little bit away from getting finalized, because we do have an IHL board meeting that will approve or disapprove it next month. We're extremely confident in it getting approved.
Yeah, I remember that because you wrote it for my section.
Yeah, exactly. We don't foresee any issues with that. But that's something that I think is going to be, that's going to change campus. Mm-hmm. I mean, we're talking about millions of dollars flowing into the Sanderson Center that weren't there before, and flowing into university recreation, which I think is hugely important to students from a lot of perspectives. Mental health has been something that has been consistently talked about all year, and
we talked about
this
Josh.
This is something that Josh Riggs, absolutely, he's done some awesome work on that and has done his best to create some change, and I'm still optimistic about where some of that is going to go. But there's a lot of ways to tackle mental health on campus. One of them is to get people to exercise more, honestly, and to provide them more opportunity to do so. And so we have tackled it from that direction. We're tackling it from a lot of other directions. But I would say that's definitely one that I'm very proud of. But another one really would just be and then the advising stuff. We're happy with that and pleased with where that's going. But also just like our block by block campaign, just because that was something that we just were willing to pour our resources into, and hopefully reduce food insecurity across campus. We saw I want to say 3 or 4 times as many donations this semester as we had the last semester, when we hadn't really touched it ourselves. And so happy with that. It's not nearly enough to feed everybody on campus, but we're doing our best. We're doing our part. So a lot of different things. Just proud to bring us back. Really just proud to have something that can reset the standard for Kennedy to meet for next year.
Yeah, and going off of that, how do you plan to, I guess, cater your accomplishments now that we are kind of out of COVID? How's your plan going to differ, I guess, from his?
Yeah, absolutely. So definitely, I'm in a great position because of the work Garrett has done to hit the ground running. Don't really have to sort of build back up with administrators I would say honestly, it was like de-thawing these relationships because everything had shut down for COVID. You know, our concerns were things like getting students in the classroom and making sure that online classes went well. Their concerns were making sure that students actually, you know, enrolled in college. And now that we're beyond that, and you know, those huge issues have been fixed, we can kind of get back to the nitty-gritty of how can we improve student life and things like that. Definitely reevaluating the Student Association as a whole is something I want to look at. We have some pretty immense resources and connections that we get to use to help students. And we have kind of paused for 2 years to get through COVID, so looking at kind of how we spend our money, how we use our people and our resources to do things around campus. We have just set up and passed a new constitution to just kind of clean up our operations, so making sure that we run on that well and kind of are efficient and effective as possible. Probably the biggest thing that I've already kind of started working on is looking at our cowbell cab system. So cowbell cabs is a service that we offer. It's an expensive service that I feel like is pretty underutilized on campus. I think it is kind of an outdated model of how to transport students. And so I had a meeting with Uber yesterday about a possible Uber student service to kind of perhaps the Student Association reduce the price of Ubers, you know, for students to and from campus or to and from residential areas in Starkville. But looking at how we can kind of bring the SA into the future, you know, because normally that happens 1 year at a time, but now we're looking at having to jump 3 years in 1 year because of the sort of the time gap that we had with COVID. So definitely looking to accelerate some of the projects that we've been behind on.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you about the Uber plan because I read it in the Reflector article. So I know cowbell cabs, every time I've tried to call them, they didn't answer or they couldn't come or something like that. So how do you think, do you think it's going to be possible to be able to work with Uber or Lyft and, get this service for students?
Yes, so the only issue that I think we have right now is sort of how we're going to pay. Not that we don't have the money, but just the payment system may be a little complex. But I've talked with some of the people at Uber's college service, and they're immensely helpful. They are already actually setting up our account, so we can start testing that to see how it would work. But I think the big advantage of an Uber student service over cowbell cabs is that a lot of the money that we're pouring into Uber goes to pay the drivers, most of whom are students. So we're able to kind of keep student money back to students. That money comes from a city tax incentive that we got a piece of several years back and have managed to keep. So the ability to pour our resources back into students sort of twofold, because we're both saving them money by helping pay for these rides and paying some hopefully student Uber drivers, I think is huge, and it shows that we have the ability to invest our resources both into Mississippi State, into Mississippi State students, and into the Starkville community. So very excited about that, and I think it's extremely possible. Still some things to iron out, but I'm highly optimistic.
That's so exciting. I read that. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't even believe you contacted Uber. So that reminds me of a question. Who is kind of the craziest person that you've ever spoken to, like the biggest person that you've spoken to that you didn't think that you'd be able to? Like you spoke to Uber, and I mean, would you have ever dreamed that you got to speak to Uber?
Never in a million years. Absolutely not.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to think. I mean, Mark Keenum's a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
But yeah. I mean, I've talked to the Uber people before. We've talked to
What about the White House folks?
Well, there's the White House folks. So, not the
No, not the White House.
Yeah. So, I actually have just been just recently. It's kind of an interesting story. Named as one of the White House Historical Association's Next Gen ambassadors. So, what does that mean? I didn't know at the first year. It's a group of about 60 people that the White House Historical Association has selected. That is an organization that was founded by Jackie Kennedy to preserve the history and the kind of museum quality of the White House. They do lots of fundraising for that to kind of prioritize the kind of the maybe older fashioned not necessarily functionality, but the history of the White House essentially. And so but they also do like civic engagement and stuff like that. And so I got a letter in November asking me if I would be a part of the program, and I was really confused because it said they were only picking 60 people, and they had, they wanted some students, and they wanted some some athletes and business leaders and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, and it said something about how they took note of my accomplishments, and I was like, well, I think I've accomplished a lot, but none of it had anything to do with the history of the White House. So I was very confused. Called, they basically explained to me that they wanted student leadership, and that our campus is one of few in the country with a presidential library. And I was like, oh yeah, no, I've been there. I do know about that.
They're
And so
celebrating something about
yeah,
that.
they are, exactly. And so actually the president of the White House Historical Association is supposed to be in town tomorrow. I have a lunch with him. We had, there's some really incredible people that are a part of that group. And I'm excited to kind of get to know and get to meet with. I had a Zoom meeting with them earlier this week. That included some of their board members, like the CEO of the Washington Post and the chair of the National Geographic Foundation. I don't know that they know my. I don't know.
This is like the coolest thing ever to me.
No, I don't know that they know my name yet, but I was on the same Zoom with them, and it wasn't like a huge one. So that was pretty cool, I'd say. But that's I don't know. That's only tangentially related to my role.
Still part of it.
Yeah, it's still part of it. But yeah, I'm excited to see where that goes.
That is so cool. I would have never guessed or even known how to apply to that or anything like that.
No, yeah, I didn't know anything about it.
Wow.
Interesting.
Okay, so just wrapping up this segment, Kennedy, what did you think when you realized that you're running unopposed, and how did you kind of gear your campaign after you realized that?
Yeah, so realizing I was unopposed was an absolute honor. The elections commissioner actually texted me like at 12:01 and was like, hey pal, you should really vote for yourself on election day, because the joke is you only need one vote to win if you're unopposed. So at that point I pretty well knew, and it was the honor of a lifetime, because to run and get elected is one thing, but to have every student kind of make the conscious decision that like, hey, he would do a good job, I'll let him run unopposed, was something else entirely. Could not have been more special, and gave me the opportunity to sort of change my messaging for the campaign. First off, I didn't have to try to slap stickers on people on the drill field. Tried to be as unannoying as possible, but catered my platform in a way that was perhaps not as marketable, but was more real. Mm-hmm. So I didn't do the kind of the campaign trend of having 3 big words, 3 big platform points, and the fancy like T-shirts or whatever. Now I did do that for VP because that is a great campaign strategy, but I wasn't in a position to have to do that. So my platform was more about, hey, we should reevaluate how we use our resources. Hey, we should fix advising. Things that students I hoped could look at and say, oh, that's a tangible thing that he's going to do. I know pretty exactly what he means when I read this platform point. And I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the conversation not being, hey, what fraternity are you in? Why should I vote for you? But being, hey, how are you going to fix advising? Mm-hmm. That meant a lot more to me, and I hope it meant a lot more to students.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. It definitely gives people a bigger picture of what you actually are going to accomplish if you have tangible goals, and not just like, you should vote for me because I'm great with money, or
exactly.
I'm very responsible, or something like that. Okay, now just a fun question. What do you guys like to do for fun, and what else are you involved with on campus?
Okay, as far as what I like to do for fun, honestly, just hang out in the essay office. It is so much fun up there. It is an incredible mix of both getting work done and just messing around. I mean, we have spent the last week talking about, the situation in Ukraine and the essay constitution and just a whole mix of random things. I love to, hang out around campus. Very much enjoy walking to the Union every day, and just taking it all in, being a part of it. I try not to miss too many state sporting events. Was fortunate enough to go to the basketball game last night, although it didn't quite turn out like we wanted it to.
I know, it was so sad.
So tough.
I mean, the Storm Chasers were there. I mean,
it was the perfect setup.
It's a storybook.
It was perfect.
But also love kind of, getting to know new people. I've really enjoyed Freshman Reach these last couple of weeks, getting to go there and meet with the policy kids and hear their ideas. I don't want to sound like SA is my whole life, but I guess for the last couple of weeks it kind of has been. And what was the second part? I apologize.
What else are you involved with on campus?
Oh, okay. So I'm involved with the College Republicans here on campus, as well as the Kappa Sigma fraternity. So.
Yeah, as far as having fun, I too enjoy hanging around the SA office. But you know, sometimes it's also sometimes good to get out of there for a minute, just because, you know, whenever you need to focus on something, it doesn't help to have people knocking on your door. I don't know. I would say just, you know, I've been blessed with an incredible friend group throughout my time at Mississippi State, and just have a group of about 10 or 15 guys that, you know, at any given time, at least one of them is free, and whether it's going to get lunch or, you know, just watching a basketball game or watching a movie or playing video games or going to play basketball ourselves or soccer or whatever. You know, we're not complicated guys. We enjoy the simple things in life, and just are always up to something. I enjoy, you know, going to road games and trying to find little trips in and out of Starkville, you know, to take up my time. But yeah, I mean, plenty of fun. I really am not involved in too much else outside of student association, which, you know, is helpful because it does take up so much time, and so I'm able to spend the rest of my time either working on class stuff or, you know, hanging out with my buddies. It's just, like I said, we're not complicated people. We just sit around and goof off and have a good time.
Yeah, awesome. Do you have anything else you'd like to add right now?
Probably just the last thing I'll add is, if anybody listening to this has a problem on campus, please let us know. If you're walking to class and you just think that the sidewalk goes the wrong way, take a picture of it.
Let me know too, because I'll write an opinion article about it.
We love to get ideas from students. Recently got a great idea from a guy who's just a regular student about, hey, can we get more of the parking lot trackers, you know, so you can see how many spaces are open. And that was something that had not crossed our minds, and something we can work on and get feedback on from Parking and Transit. So please, if you want to walk into the office, we're up on the 3rd floor of the Union. My email is wkg38. Shoot me an email, and we can work on anything. The worst we can do is ask and get told no, which, as I've said, we don't mind to do it all. So.
Yeah, I'll also add that if anybody has a problem on campus, you should also contact Katie, because my days are few, and I will not be able to help you at all here shortly. So yeah, just give him a call, give him an email. I'm sure he'll take care of it.
Well, it's such a great thing that you're so open to everybody on campus, because it would be a whole different story, obviously, if you weren't looking for student feedback. So that's really awesome. All right, now moving into story updates. At MSU, obviously everyone knows at this point, but masks are now optional. I didn't look at Ole Miss's mask mandate.
I didn't see any updates, but
okay,
I have a feeling they'll probably follow suit if
okay.
they haven't already.
So right now, I guess we're pretty sure that Ole Miss is still doing the mask in the classroom situation, and then at Delta State, of course, masks are only in the longest student or in their health center. All right, and then moving into teacher salary updates. So a few weeks ago, the House and Senate passed the teacher bill, but then there was some tea going on with that. So yeah, there's always something. So there is a squabble between the House and the Senate. Basically, they both, well, not really a squabble, but they both wanted their bill to be the one that got passed. And so basically they almost let their bills die because they both wanted their bill to be passed. But anyway, so finally the House bill was passed by the Senate. So they were like, we're just going to go ahead and pass this. Anyway, that's from Mississippi Today by Jeff Pender and Bobby Harrison. And also, the priority was supposed to be the teacher pay raise for both the House and the Senate, but they were just really arguing about, who was priority and things like that. But it's like, if we just pass the bill, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter whose bill it is. So that's that update. It is going to be in Governor Reeves' hands. They do have to finalize a few more details before the end of the legislative session. That's what the article said. But new average teacher salary in Mississippi is going to go up to $43,125, which is above the southeastern teacher salary average of $39,754. So definitely really, really good raise for those teachers, and they really deserve it. All right, Garrett and Kennedy are about to depart us. Thanks so much for coming on the show today, guys. We really enjoyed having y'all.
Yeah, we appreciate it so much. And
Thank
you'll have
y'all.
to stay tuned for the opinion part of this, where we'll go into kind of the Magnolia Film Festival and all that. So if you have any interest in that.
We'll do,
For
absolutely.
sure. Well, thank y'all for having us. We
Thank
certainly
you so
appreciate
much.
it.
Appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
Y'all
Thank y'all so much.
All right.
All right, now that our lovely 2 presidents have left us, it's back to just me and Heather.
Yes.
So we're going to go into the ones that got away.
AKA what didn't make the paper this week. Guys, I don't know what it is about this spring semester, but the ones that got away is really just, she's a weekly segment. Anyway, so my first story that got away this week was a feature story about Michael Birdcap Roy, and basically he's the artist who made all of those funky murals in the Cotton District that are like those weird
Oh, yeah, I know what you're
shapes
talking
and
about.
things like that. So, and originally, I think he was hired by Dan Camp to like piss off people, like piss off old people, because like his art is so eccentric, it's really, you know, young person centered.
I could see that.
So I thought it'd be really cool because like if he made this artwork, you know, for that reason, then he's probably an interesting character. And it's also just been an idea for a long time. Well, we couldn't get into contact with him. So if you're listening to this, Mr. Michael Birdcap Roy, please reach out to us.
Please.
And the second one that got away is about the Hidden Dream, which is basically a first generation American student like mentoring type program. So it's like young immigrants are mentoring other young immigrants, basically just how do you get your visa, how's life in America, things like that. But unfortunately we weren't able to gather enough like local sources. So hopefully we'll have that in the future, and hopefully we'll have Nirmal on the podcast from the Hidden Dream because he goes to state here.
Cool.
So anyway, those were the ones that got away this week.
Next up, we have Emma's Opinion Corner.
Yay!
So, this would have been nice to have Garrett and Kennedy for this, but hot take. Students should not have to pay to get their transcripts sent places.
I don't know who would disagree with this.
I've already paid tuition. I already paid a bunch of these random fees to people. I feel like y'all already have it there.
Mhm.
There is no need for me to have to pay some processing fee or anything. It does not take that much effort. You type in who you were trying to do it to, and you press send.
Also, that's someone's job.
That's literally their job. They're already
They're
getting
already
paid.
getting paid. Yes, they're already
Who am I
getting
paying?
Just dumping money into an endless pot. I don't know. But
I'm like, it's mine. They're my grades. I already paid them to get
no,
those.
you're so right. Like it is like my grades. These are the things that I did. I already paid this much money to go here.
Exactly.
And you're gonna charge me however much money to
They're
get my
mine.
results.
Give them to me. For free.
I agree. There's not gonna be a huge fight this week
I don't
about
think
the hot
there's,
take.
no, I mean, this time I'm actually saying my opinion, so
Okay.
I'm not deceiving our listeners or you.
Thank you. If you disagree this week, please let us know why. Maybe the money actually goes
Maybe
toward a
there's
beneficial
something I
place.
don't know.
Yeah, maybe there's
But-
something we don't know. But I doubt it.
I don't think there is. I think it's just there because they can.
It's another easy way to get money.
Yeah, you have to get your transcript, so why wouldn't they add a fee? I think that's what they're thinking. So that's the hot take for this week. Our film review for this week is actually multiple films. So I went to the Magnolia Independent Film Festival this past weekend.
Shout out to Chris if you're listening.
And Heather actually went there.
Sorry, I blocked your train of thought.
Heather went with me for one day. We did the family-friendly day thing for it was mostly animated films, but one of them was actually live action. And so this took place February 24th through the 26th at the UEC Theater in Starkville, and it had its opening day in Columbus. So it's the first film festival in Mississippi starting in 1997. It was originally in West Point, but then they decided to move it more to the Golden Triangle area to kind of get more people to come there. And it celebrated its 25th anniversary, so they're doing pretty good. So I figured we could talk about the films that we saw together since you actually saw them this time.
I've been doing good about watching stuff. I finished The Sex Life of College Girls. I'm watching Schitt's Creek. Like, I'm watching things.
Did you finish Veep too?
Oh yeah, I finished that
Yeah,
one time ago.
There we go.
Loved
See,
it.
she's doing it. So for this one, I figured we could talk about that. If y'all didn't see these films, I think they have most of them listed online, and they might be showing them at other film festivals. But as far as I know, none of these are just showing in theaters.
Yeah,
so-
but they're very wholesome, and you can enjoy our opinions.
Yeah, and maybe that will make you want to go next year, so you can check it out then.
Yeah, definitely go next year.
So the first one we saw was called The Farmer and the Lightning. And a lot of the ones for this had a very specific style of animation.
Yeah.
They were very off the beating path.
Yes, it was like hand drawn. Like
it looked like
child.
a book.
Yes, that's
It
exactly.
looked like a children's book.
Like the Very Hungry Caterpillar book. That's kind of what the style reminded me a lot
Yes,
of. Things
yes.
like that. I really enjoyed that style because it wasn't so polished, like crisp and clean.
Mm.
It was kind of rough. Like you could see sketches of hair and things like that, which is really cool.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the styles of these films just because they were so stylized. It wasn't this specific one that we've gotten so used to with 3D type of animation with, Pixar and Disney, that type of stuff. So I thought that was a really good one. The Farmer and the Lightning, I thought it was a pretty decent story.
That was not my fave.
It was okay. It wasn't my favorite of all of them, but I thought it was still nice.
Yeah, I don't know, that one was just like, okay.
It was a little slow. I will say that. The next one we saw was a cat called Jam.
Oh, I love that one.
This one was
Probably
about
one of my faves.
It was about a cat that believes that they were a dog.
Yeah.
And so the whole time it's just like him kind of having an identity crisis and eventually getting to play with the dogs and being a dog.
This was my favorite animation style that we saw. I liked it a lot.
His tail was very nice.
It was so cool. Yeah, it looked like
Yeah.
a feather. It was really nice.
It was an interesting film, and I also really liked the stylized kind of look of that as well. The next one was Umbrellas. This was a foreign film, although you wouldn't really know it because she only said like 3 words the whole
This
time.
one, I forgot what this one was called, but like I just realized it was so sad.
It was good though.
It was really good though.
It was about this guy. So apparently babies, instead of the stork here, they come through by an umbrella. And so this one little girl gets brought into like this man who has a beard that ends up being like an umbrella for her because her umbrella had a tear in it. And for some reason she like can't touch water for some reason. I'm not really sure why, but
They spoke 2 words in this whole thing. Papa and what do they call the dog? Nona or something?
Nona, I think, is the dog's name. That's like the only words I said. And then no was the other word. So
Full script.
you couldn't quite figure that context out, but she eventually kind of overcomes that and is able to go out in the rain, and everything opens up from being gray to colorful like everybody else.
That was really cool.
They had kind of a contrast between that. When she was under her father's beard as the umbrella, it was colorful under there, but the outside was gray, and then eventually everything opens up into that. And he's able to trim his beard finally.
And there were some really cute dogs in there, and
They were so cute, the style that they made those dogs.
there were some mischievous dogs too.
They were. They opened up a window and like.
Yeah,
went out
this
of
dog
it.
just opened up the window in the middle of the night and ran out the door in the rain.
Yeah.
Or ran out the window. Yeah. That was
It's
cutesy.
because he wanted to go get the puppy.
I know.
But that one broke my heart, but I loved it. It was so good.
I like that one a little too much. It was really good.
Yeah. I could tell Heather liked that when I looked over at it. She was like super invested.
Anything with a dog in it, like this was literally a drawing, animation. I was concerned.
Oh, I know. The next one we had was the Amazing Adventures of Awesome. It was kind of showing the world through the eyes of someone with autism, I believe, is what that one was. I don't think I really liked the style of that one as much.
I don't really remember much about this one, honestly.
It didn't really move that much. It was a lot more stationary. I feel like it might have been better as a book.
Yeah, it was also really, really short.
So I did appreciate it, but I think this one, maybe this was the wrong medium for it.
Yeah, I thought it would have been a good picture book. Now that you say that.
So
yeah.
that was
Even the
my opinion for
animation.
that one. It was fine, but I think it would have been better that way. And then the last one of this, which was their live action one, was Saving Amelia, and it actually won in its category for the film festival. And this one was about 2 girls who like needed to find something to do. Their mom's annoyed with them. They're stuck in the house. COVID's happening.
Yeah.
And so they end up going upstairs because mom's like, stop being on the screens all the time. Go find something else to do. You're like pretty much bothering me. Go do something else. So they go up to the attic and they start digging around looking for stuff to do. And apparently this was actually a real family. When we looked at the end of this movie, it was just all the members of their family. So they made this when they were actually in quarantine, which was kind of neat. Anyway, so the plot of it is they go up there and they find the grandfather's old radio system. And they start, messing with it. And they're like, what is this noise? And it's Amelia Earhart. And they're like, well, how in the world are we picking up this frequency? She died like a long time ago. There's no way she could still be alive. Well, somehow they were making it through time warp or something, and they were still stuck in that time. And so they were talking to Amelia, trying to get the Coast Guard or the Navy, I can't remember which one, to
Yeah,
go
I
and
remember.
find their location. So they kind of used Morse code, they figured out how to use coordinates and different things like that to pretty much save Amelia Earhart. And then the time changes once they go downstairs, and it shows like Amelia's great-granddaughter or granddaughter or something has found a cure for coronavirus or something like that.
Yeah. It was
Because
really
they saved her.
Yeah.
So,
It reminds me of like an idea I would have as a child. I loved Amelia Earhart a lot. Not this much, I guess, but I liked her a lot. Any like female hero that we learned about, I was like, yes, love her. She's my queen. So it reminded me of me and Holly, like, you know, we could like play around
Yeah.
and do things like that. I was always bossy, like one of the little girls was. So it was very cutesy.
yeah, I really enjoyed this one. It did remind me of like how I played around as a kid, because I played outside a lot when I was a kid, and I cherish like those times. So I'm glad that they're kind of showing, hey, using your imagination is cool. You don't need to always be in front of a screen, because you're going to be in front of a screen the rest of your life. Enjoy your childhood when you have it. So
Yeah.
that's my thoughts on that. So that was the last one that Heather saw with me. I actually went to another night of it with my brother because he won like free weekend tickets to it. So I went Friday night, and actually our advisor Josh was there the same night as me, so I made sure to say hello to him. And so the first one of this night was a music video called Float. This was student made. I can't remember what the exact class was, but it's for Chris Mission's class.
It's like a broadcast class. It's called commercial. I don't know what it's called, but anyway.
So they made a music video. Apparently there was like 4 or 5 different versions of this, and the client was able to kind of choose from those, like which one was the best. I guess this was the best one.
I wonder if that's realistic. Probably not. Like making 5 different versions of a music video?
Yeah, it was different cuts. Like they used the same footage, but did
gotcha.
different cuts of
Okay.
it. But you could just tell it was kind of student made. I'm not gonna lie. I think it was, the idea was there. Apparently they shot this whenever it was really cold outside. I learned these details later, but it's supposed to be set in the summer, and it's basically just about this boy and girl, and just kind of their relationship, and how they're just floating in the pool and that kind of stuff. And it was just kind of boring. And then they didn't really even look like they liked each other that much. Like the whole time they were just like leaning on each other, and it's like, and then laughing, and then they get like this close to each other and then never kiss. And I'm like, I get it that they're just students, but like this is not believable to me. And then like the song guy was just like floating around with his guitar on floats and stuff. I was just kind of like,
I wonder if this is online.
I don't really know, but I was like, all right, that's a choice. The guy that was like apparently a part of it was sitting in front of me, so I'm glad I didn't roast it right then. But I mean, I think it was a good effort.
Yeah, always watch your...
I feel like definitely with more time, they would have probably been able to execute it better, because there was one part, literally the first part of when the guy is supposed to be saying the lyrics, and the lips did not line up at all.
Yeah.
So I was like, it was okay. Not my favorite. 17-Year Locust, you can check out my review for the Reflector for this one. I'm not going to go into that right now, but I will have one out for next week's paper.
That'll be on Wednesday?
Yes. Happier and Healthier documentary. This was also student made. I can't remember what class that was for either, but it was about this ranch in Oxford, I believe, and this lady who apparently raises cows more humanely or something, but there was a lot of shaky cam in this. I mean, granted, she was in the back of the truck for a lot of it, but it could have been better done as well.
They're probably using these cameras.
Most likely. Most likely. The next one was My Dear God. This was one kind of dealing with addiction in a small town. This was made by a chick who's in the NYU film program. I think it's a grad program. And I thought it was pretty decent. I actually liked how this one shot. It was very professional. It had a decent message and everything, but it was decent. The next one was Tap Boy. This one sucked. I'm sorry.
Hot take!
It was shot fine, but just none of it really made sense. I got that they were trying to go for like, oh, music kind of saves them, but it doesn't really execute it well. It's about this guy who's like helping these people do drugs and like sell the drugs to people, and is kind of a runner for them to sell the drugs. And he gets kind of stuck in this situation along with this old lady. They're apparently probably squatting in her house. That's what it looks like to me.
Okay.
And so he ends up he gets beat up like a couple times, and he starts learning how to dance based off watching old movies that the old lady's watching. And it just kind of goes into that, and eventually, he just starts tap dancing. They want him to stab this guy to kind of show their loyalty, but then he just starts tap dancing instead, and he apparently called the cops beforehand, and so they come in and get him.
Wow, interesting.
And that's, how it ends, and you're like, okay. The next one was Katerina. This one was not in English, and it did not have subtitles.
Rip.
So I feel like I lost a lot of the humor in this, but still the situational comedy kind of, you could tell that it was supposed to be funny, just different things that they do, facial expressions, how they react to things. The physical comedy of a lot of it is basically kind of how you follow the story, and also just watching them. But you definitely couldn't understand every minute thing because you can't understand them, and you couldn't read it either. And I don't know whatever language they had. The next one is The Winemaker. This was a animated film. It was kind of dark, I'm not gonna lie. Definitely children would not like this film. It was very almost Tim Burton-esque, and it was okay. I didn't really like it that much, but it was decent. And then the last one I really liked was a foreign film called Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. And I think this was either Korean or some type of I know Korean film has been booming lately, so it's probably that. But it was about a little boy who learns piano from his grandfather, and then slowly starts going through life and how that affects different ways of how he meets people and how they are in relation to him. And that one was really nice. I think that one's actually online if you want to try and find it, but it was very good. And yeah, that's all from the film festival. I have a link below if you want to check out more for the next time. And moving on to the crazy story of the week.
Yes, moving on to something a little bit less wholesome. So this past summer, a group of men who called themselves the Veterans Order began what officials and journalists started to call on the coast the Walmart Manifesto. So what is this, right? Okay. This group basically set fire to Walmart locations in Gulfport, Biloxi, and Mobile, Alabama between May 27th and June 4th, 2021. The group also made multiple demands that were related to the company's, quote, interstate and foreign commerce business practices. This article is from WLOX staff, and I'll have it linked below as always. And basically, so you're like, why? This is old news. Well, they were just arrested on February 24th, and they're set to go to court in Mobile, Alabama, just in a few weeks. So basically, this group was using burner phones to kind of communicate and email.
Burner phones. It's arson.
Oh my gosh. I didn't even think about that. So they were using burner phones to email their demands to local media and also to Walmart. And so about a week after those fires happened, the government said that a burner phone emailed local media, quote, "How many of these fires do we have to set for the news not to suppress this story and the evil calls by Walmart?" Okay, and then according to the article, quote, "A newly unsealed federal indictment details an elaborate scheme to start the fires. It lays out how the suspects used burner phones to help them communicate with each other before, during, and after the fires were set." So, yeah, basically they had their little fires and they had their company demands, but they emailed the local media instead of emailing Walmart. Good.
So that's all for this week. We thank you for tuning in. We thank Garrett and Kennedy for coming. You can follow them on social media. On Instagram, for Garrett Smith, it's Garrett Smith 1424. And then for Kennedy Guest, it is Kennedy Guest with no spaces or anything in between.
Yes, and definitely shout out to them for coming on the show. We hope to see good things as, the incoming president starts his term.
Doing his thing.
So hopefully we're in for a good year here at Mississippi State. And like I said in the story updates, we don't have a mask mandate anymore. So things are starting to look a little bit more normal. On the drill field, there's about 100 people out there today. Did you see?
I know.
Everyone's enjoying the nice weather. So anyway, that was not related to anything.
Anyways, you can also follow us on social media.
Yes.
TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at On The Scene Pod.
You can also email us any questions, comments, hot takes, or if you want to be a guest or a sponsor on the podcast, onthescenepod@gmail.com.
You can also share us to your stories if you'd like. Let us know what you're thinking. Feel free to DM us on anything as well.
Yes.
We love to talk.
Yes. And
As you can tell from this episode.
Oh yeah, I mean, but whatever. We had guests.
We had guests.
We're chit-chatting. Make sure you rate, review, and subscribe to our podcast as well. And also make sure you check out The Reflector. We have new issues coming out every Wednesday. And, it's just an exciting time at The Reflector.
And yeah, we're at Reflector Online for social media and Reflector-Online for our website.
Yes.
And that's all, folks.
Thanks for tuning in. Bye.
Bye.